time now for the two-stroke series, and where the only real options we have are pretty much between Hondas and Yamahas, and one Suzuki. And you know what? I think for our next event, that's pretty much what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a Suzuki for my next one, once I find it. Here it is. The Suzuki RG250 Gamma, since I noticed this was one of the available bikes I could use for our next championship event, the two-stroke series. So that's what we're doing. And don't really need to change the riding gear, I'd say that's fine the way it is. Let's get on with championship number 2 in this game, two-stroke series. And these are the eligible bikes that can enter this event. So we've got 2 Hondas, 3 Yamahas and 1 Suzuki as our entrant opponents. Well, as our entrant vehicles. And these are the tracks we are going to: Grand Valley East, Autumn Ring, and Fuji Speedway 80s. And like before, we are doing 3 races for our second championship event of this game. And so we begin at Grand Valley East, and where for our competition we've got 2 Hondas and 1 Yamaha, and there's also me. So we've got a Honda NSR 250R SE, a Honda NS 250R, and a Yamaha RZ250. So let's go. I'm pretty convinced in saying this is not going to be too much of an ask for me to win, unless the top speed really does manage to slow me down. But I'm hopeful in saying that it won't, and hopefully we can get it on. So 4.4 seconds is the gap. And up to this point, I'd say we're pretty much doing okay. And I almost fell off the bike there, but I was able to hold on. I don't think top speed is going to affect me too much here, as I now cleared the first of the 2 Hondas on my Suzuki. I really hope top speed is not going to be too much of a disadvantage here. And my top speed is 128. That could be a problem at Fuji, but I will make sure to dial up the transmission once we get to Fuji, because I know Fuji is very much speed resilient. And that is pretty much what I will be doing. So, closing in on the leading Honda. I do seem to be faster through the corners than my opponent, even though I am still very much here to get my advantage through the corners, as the gap is now 1.8 seconds. I have also noticed that by leaning to the side, I can actually get some extra speed, and I'm slowly closing in on the leader. I don't think speed is going to be too much of a problem by the time we get to Autumn Ring, because there are plenty of corners at Autumn Ring. But as ever, I am slowly closing in on the leader. And of course, the other reason why I chose the Suzuki as well, because personally, I dare to be different. And I just ran wide. However, I am here and waiting to see if I can catch up to the leader, as the gap is now 1 second to the leader, and I still have another 2 laps to go. And up to this point, I think we're going to be on course to win, as long as I don't make any major mistakes between now and then. This race should pretty much be mine. So just gotta look for the right exit speed and then we should be fine. And as I would have expected, I run into the back of the Honda, but I'm steadily closing in. It could take a last lap pass for me to get the win, but at this point, I'm pretty much having fun. And that's more or less what I want to be doing. Round the outside at the right-hander, and it looks like this is going to be where I more or less get the job done. Is he going to repass me? Yes, he does. I did kind of lift there so I could give him the running room, but that's okay, because I am still here. And so I dart myself round the outside, and at this point it looks like we're going well. And I'm pretty sure that I am no doubt going to score this win pretty easily. I did have to push it this time to get to the front, but I did manage to do everything in my power to make sure I got there. And there we go. I emerge as a winner by just under 2 seconds ahead of the Honda NSR 250R. Then we had the NS 250R third and the RZ 250 finishing fourth. I gotta say, that was fun. That really was fun. I actually really had to go for it in order to get the win, and that's partly the reason why it was so fun. Anyway, 1 race down, and 2 races to go. As this time, we are heading out to Autumn Ring. And where I anticipate this is probably going to be easier for me because, well, Autumn Ring, unlike Grand Valley, it has a few more corners. And that's typically where I tend to be stronger. And that's typically where I tend to be stronger than the AI. because it essentially is my cornering speed. That does help me to be stronger than the AI. As I am now up into third position and steadily closing in on second. And we are doing okay. And 5.4 seconds is now the gap to the leader. Of course, since Autumn Ring has a lot more corners rather than straights, I'm pretty convinced in saying it's not going to take me too long to catch up to the leader. Because I do very much seem to be on track to catching up to the leader in relatively little time from what I can see. Hopefully that is what the case will be again, as the gap is now 4 seconds. And everything seems to be going okay at the moment. And we'll see how we do. And a little bit wide there on the outside, but still able to more or less keep up the momentum. 3.8 seconds is now the gap, so I'm slowly closing in on the leader, but I can definitely say I'm definitely having to push it harder in order for me to close in on the leader, and now it's just 2.5 seconds. I actually like how this time around I'm actually having to push in order for me to actually go after the leader. And that's more or less what seems to be happening here. So, less than 8/10 is now the gap. And up to this point, I'd say we're doing pretty well. And so far so good. Just waiting to time my accuracy and then we should be fine. As the gap is now 2/10 to the leader. I head up the inside. And I can definitely say we're keeping it close here. We're keeping it real tight for the lead at the moment. 3/10 is the gap. Is he going to try and dart up the inside? Yes, he is. I gave him plenty of racing room there so he could shoot through. I could have thrown the block if I really wanted to, but since there are pretty much 2 laps to go here and I still have plenty of time to clear him, it's not going to be that difficult for me to secure the lead by the time we get onto the final lap. So, I think we should be okay here, even though we are currently swapping the lead back and forth at the moment. And so, here we go. .1 seconds is now the gap. And so, it appears we are going to be well on our way to scoring 2 wins out of 3 in the 2-stroke series. And so, we are now 2.3 seconds ahead of the leading Honda. So heading through this left-hander, now into the spiral. Everything seems to be going normally. And up to this point, I'm pretty sure he's not going to beat me. So 3.6 seconds is the gap. I know I will have to make this bike faster by the time we get over to Fuji. And is this going to be a new best? Not quite. But that's okay, because I still score the win. I gotta say, these first 2 races, they've been a lot of fun. I've actually had to push to go for the win this time. Unlike in the T-Max Cup, where I basically just went on to more or less just, well, truncate the rest of the field in terms of their odds, and it's pretty much even Stevens in terms of our point scores. Myself ahead of the 2 Hondas, and the Yamaha is, well, he's just here for show. Anyway, there we go. That's now 2 races down, and still 1 race to go. Let's head on to the 3rd race, because I know I have not got a shot of 80's Fuji Speedway yet. And before we continue, I know I'm going to need some extra speed here, so I'm going to give this bike a higher top speed. Even though the top speed is about, what, 128 miles an hour when it's in the red zone at its maximum. So I reckon about, let's give it 118. I think that should do it. I think that should be enough for me to win, because that should put me well in the 130s. I think that's where that should put me. Yeah, I'll go with that. I won't be too slow, but I also won't be too fast either. Even though I will be hitting the rev limiter a couple of times, but either way, here we go. I've pretty much won the championship, whatever happens, because, well, there's quite a big gap from 1st to 2nd, and I don't think it's going to be too hard for me to get this one. I've pretty much got it cinched. I just need to focus on making sure that I can get to the end. And had to step on the brakes a little bit there, else I would have gone into the grass. Now heading through this uphill corner, and things look to be going okay for now. And the gap is 4.5 seconds to the leader. I'm convinced in saying I will hit the speed limiter a few times, but hopefully that's not going to be enough to derail my chances of winning. I did of course give myself some extra speed just in case. I don't know if this is or isn't going to be enough, but it's at least going to be enough for me to make a pass for second, and that's pretty much what I do. And my top speed is 135. And it doesn't look like it's going to be the clean sweep this time. Oh well. I think we should be okay. Because I still have a relatively good bike in the corners. And that's pretty much where I've been at my strongest. So it looks as though speed is still going to be a weak point for me, but either way, I don't really care because I've pretty much got the championship locked up whatever happens. Because I won 2 out of the first 3 races, and even if my opponent was able to catch up to me, there's no way he would realistically be able to beat me on points because, well, I would still be here to score. Because, well, I would still be here to score 26 points at the minimum if I don't manage to get the sweep. But either way, I'd say we're doing good. So 2 seconds is now the gap, so it looks as though I am gaining on the leader. I don't think speed is really proving to be too much of a problem at this time, but either way, I'm obviously not going to chance it. I'm just going to let my riding do the talking. And just let everything else come to me naturally. So, I think it's obvious to say that my speed change is helping me to catch up to the leader. And I reckon this is going to be a close one. Because I have the advantage through the corners, but I don't have the advantage on the straights. And that's where I reckon I'm going to be at my weakest. But in the corners, however, I reckon there's still a lot more up for grabs. As I go down the inside, however, I'm pretty sure the Honda is slightly faster than me, unless he has also hit his rev limiter. And getting on the brakes a little bit early, and it looks like we're pretty much doing okay at the moment. And so we continue. Because that is what we do. So, pretty close event at the moment between myself and the Honda, but it looks like with my transmission adjustment going into this, it appears to be giving me an advantage. Because I have worked my way up to the front. And I gotta say, although I have managed to beat the Honda in the first 2 races of these events, I was not actually thinking I was going to be fast enough to beat it in the 3rd race, but now it looks like I'm slowly pulling away from him. As in, everything right now seems to be okay. I thought for sure it was going to be just the opposite, but it's turning out to not be that way. So, doing good at this time, and the rear tyre locked up. And it looks like I might have lost this one now because of that mistake I made. Although, I guess there is still time for me to make up for it. Still, I did not think the rear tyre was going to lock up the way it did heading into the corner. I must have carried too much speed, and that was what probably caused the rear brake to lock up the way it did. But either way, no harm, no foul. I can definitely say this race has been a close one between me and the Honda NSR 250R. We've definitely been battling tooth and nail for this one. But it looks like I am going to come out on top with the clean sweep just as I hit the rev limiter, and victory by 3/10 over the Honda NSR 250R, who now just gives me a bump in the rear tyre. And we are probably the only 2 who are going to finish, and yes we are. And nobody else was really in this one, but somehow, someway, in spite of my last lap blunder, I still managed to come away with the win. So another clean sweep to me, and it looks like everyone else has pretty much swept up their respective positions as well. Ironically, the fastest bikes to the slowest bikes, and that only took me 28 minutes to get all the way up here. And now it is time to save a replay. So that is what we will do. Saving the replay. And so, there we go. 2 replays saved, and we did those 2 events in a matter of just an hour. But anyway, 13 points to me, 18 points to the NSR 250R, 12 points to the NS 250R, and 9 points to the RS 250. So that is another championship done, and now our next couple of events are going to be championship events. So, for achieving a top 3 we get more helmets, and for winning the 2-stroke series we get the VFR 400R. And, of course, I'm not going to put on the exclusive number 1 because, well, I don't really need to. So this is what we get. The Honda VFR 400R Racing Modified. And I'm not going to change over to the number 1 yet because I don't need to. Oh yeah, I should also mention, when we actually come first in championships and we get our prize bike, we also managed to get the option of putting the number 1 on the bike we used. And next up will be the 80s Hero Series, where these will be any one of these bikes that we can use. Anyway, that's now 8 events down, and now let's go and check out our new prize bike, the Honda VFR 400R. Once I find it. It's in here somewhere. It's just a matter of where. Let's see, where are you? I know you're in here somewhere. Am I stupid or something? I could be stupid. Still haven't found it yet. Unless I can find it in the displacement category. Let's have a look. I know it's in here somewhere. Ah, here it is. The Honda VFR 400R from 1989. And this thing is very nice. Cool. Very cool. Okay. There we go. And now, as a result of us completing that event, we are now 64.1% complete with the game. And now, I have to go and check my previous video file for a moment to see just how much progress I've made from those 2 events. I'll be right back. We are now up to 64.1% complete, so we still have another 36% of progress to go, and when I started this session off we were 59.7%. So from those first 2 championship events we have gained 4.6% of progress. And next time we will be doing the 80s Hero Series. So, next time on Tourist Trophy, 80s Hero Series.